Hey, algebra students, guess what? This is your last test review of the year. I've so enjoyed having you guys as students this year, and I'm excited that you guys are going to start your high school careers next year, and then the time will fly through. They will fly by, and you guys will be through before you even know it. All right, so let's get started. It says the graph shows the height of a kicked soccer ball in feet depending on the distance from the kicker. So that's our x-axis, the distance from the kicker. What do the x-intercepts and maximum value of the graph represent? All right, so we have two x-intercepts. We have the first one over here at 0, 0. And then we have one at, it looks like about 30, 0. Okay, so x represents the distance from the kicker. So what do these two x intercepts mean? Well, it means when the ball was on the ground. So when the ball was 0 feet from the kicker, the ball was on the ground. The ball was on the ground. And then I would say, and exactly the same when the ball was 30 feet from the kicker, the ball was on the ground. Okay, I hope y'all understand what that means. You should, because you're listening to my words. So what does the x-intercepts mean? It means when the ball was 0 feet from the kicker, the ball was on the ground. And when the ball was 30 feet from the kicker, the ball was on the ground. That's what it means. All right, and now we're answering the question, the maximum value. Well, this is a happy parabola. So it looks like this would be the axis of symmetry about right there. So what does that mean? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So when x is 15, we're at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 feet. So when, let's see, when the ball was 15 feet from the kicker, 15 feet from the kicker, it reached a maximum height of 15 feet. That was the height this way as well. And of course I could, I didn't have to use an equation to figure out those distances or those times or those, everything I just talked about. I just used my chart right here. So I have thoroughly answered that question. I have answered the question, what do the x-intercepts mean? I talked about both of them. And the maximum value of the height, I described that very well as well. All right, so when you guys are asked a short answer question, make sure you thoroughly answer the questions, okay? All right, what's the next question? It says, what are the intervals where the function is increasing and decreasing? And what do they represent about the difference, about the distance and height? All right, so when is this graph increasing? Well, increasing means it's going up and to the right, and decreasing means it's going down and to the right, correct? So it's increasing, what would I say? It's increasing, let's write it this way, when x is between 0 and, what we say, 15. When x is in between 0 and 15, the graph was increasing, right? And then the graph is decreasing when x is in between 15 and, this is 30. And of course, these numbers are both, it can't be, let's see, Yeah, that's correct. So it's decreasing when x is between 15 and 30, right? And what do they represent about the distance and the height? Well, they represent, at 15 is the maximum height. 15 is maximum height. And before they get to 15, before the ball reaches 15 feet in height, the distance, the height is increasing, but as soon as it hits 15, the height starts decreasing, correct? All right, so here are our intervals. So hopefully you guys, when you have a question similar to this, this will help you out, I hope so. All right, what else? Let's see. What is the approximate rate of change of the graph from x equals 22 to x equals 26? Well, let's see, this is 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. Whoops. All right, so I'm looking from here to here, right? So I want to know. So basically this tells me when x is 22, y would be what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then when x is 26, y is 2, 4, 6, 7. All right, so how do we find the rate of change? We do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's our slope, right? So 7 minus 12 is negative 5. 7 minus 12 is negative 5, and 26 minus 22 is 4. So that's about negative 1.25. What's 5 divided by 4, you guys? My brain's going. Yeah, 1.25. It's negative 1.25, which makes sense because at this point, our graph is decreasing, correct? So I would say, what does it mean? What does it represent? The average rate of change is negative 1.25 between, I should say, when x is between 22 and 26. In other words, the ball is dropping about 1.25 feet per second between 22 and 26 seconds, okay? Per second. It's dropping about 1.25 per second. All righty. Okay, let's see what's next. Number two, it says Derek threw a tennis ball up in the air. What is the x-intercept? So remember, the x-intercept is what x is when y is 0. Well, there it is right there. There's our x-intercept. So what does y mean in this situation? It's the height, and our x represents time. So what does this specifically mean in this scenario? So I would say 4 seconds after Derek threw the tennis ball, it hit the ground. It hit the ground. That's what the x-intercept means in this scenario, because x is time and height is seconds, all right? So 4 seconds after Derek threw the ball up, it hit the ground. That's what it means. All right, number 3, the function g of n is equal to n squared minus 20n plus 95 represents a parabola. Rewrite the function in vertex form by completing the square. So do you guys remember how to write in vertex form? So basically, when we have an equation like this, so let's start with our equation. G of n is equal to n squared minus 20n plus 95. When you're going to write it in vertex form, you're going to remember, you're going to scoot over this term right here. You're going to scoot it over. We're We're going to leave a little space, and then we're going to write plus 95 right here. Well, then how do we get this term right here? What do we do? Well, remember, we take this second term and we're going to half it. Well, half of 20, negative 20 is negative 10. And after we half it, we square it. Well, negative 10 squared is positive 100, right? So we're going to add right here plus 100. And in order to make all of this equivalent, if you add 100 over here, we have to subtract 100 over here. So these are the steps. I made a video about all this. So if you can't remember, if you don't know how to write a function in vertex form, you need to go back and find that lesson in Florida Virtual and watch my video, because I give you a couple of different examples on that, okay? So now I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to write n squared minus 20n plus 100. And what does this equal? Minus 5. So we're almost done. So how did we get that 100? We took negative 10 and we squared it. So basically it's n minus 10 squared minus 5. And we have just written this. We have just written this in vertex form by completing the square, okay? And when it says show your work, that's exactly what I did. All right, I think I'm gonna have to erase this. I think there's another question coming up. Let me write this right here. Minus 5, and then I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. See what's coming up next, I don't remember. Ooh, did you hear my voice cracked? Did you guys hear that? Oh, there we go. Determine the vertex and indicate whether it is a maximum or minimum on the graph. So, well, now that we have this formula written in vertex form, we don't have to go through the negative b over 2a. We use this and this to figure out our vertex. So remember, our vertex is written in the form of HK. So it's always the positive or the opposite of this number. So the vertex is positive 10, negative 5, right? And the next question is, does this vertex, so if this is our vertex weight, if we went right 10, down 5, is this going to be our minimum because our parabola looks like this? Or is it going to be our maximum because the parabola goes down like this? Well, how do we know? Well, it's our leading coefficient. If our leading coefficient is a positive number, we have a happy parabola, remember? If it's a negative leading coefficient, we have a negative parabola. So since this is a positive number right here, it means our parabola is going to go open up, which means that this is going to be our lowest spot. So this represents a minimum. And how do I know? Well, I just explained it to you. Or I could say because the leading coefficient is a positive number. That's what I would write to prove my answer is true on a test. Okay? All righty. Oh. Okay, well, so what was the vertex was 10, negative 5, I believe. Yeah. So anytime you have to find the axis of symmetry, so when I drew that parabola, if it's like this, whatever that x value is always my x value for the, oh, that's supposed to be right down the middle. So you're always going to write the axis of symmetry as x is equal to, that's part of it's an equation. You have to write x is equal to, and then it's the x value of your vertex every time. If you just write 10, that's not right. That's not an equation. But if you write x equals 10, that's full credit because that's the right answer. All right, number 4, a biologist created the graph to show the relationship between the temperature of water. So this is temperature of water and the number of insect larvae in the water, right? So the question is, what does the y-intercept of the graph represent? Well, the y-intercept is right here. So what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is 400, 0. Oh, I wrote that backwards, you guys. Oh my goodness. Miss Richardson, pay attention. I wrote that backwards. Because we don't go right or left, but we go up 400. So in the context of this situation, it tells us everything we need to know in these words. What does the y-intercept mean? Well, the x, which is 0, means when the temperature of the water is 0 degrees, then what? The number of insect larvae in the water is 400. That's what it means in context of this situation. That's pretty straightforward. All right, number 5, what is the domain of all parabolas? Well, the domain are the x values, right? Well, if you have a parabola that opens up or opens down, those arrows will go out left and right forever. Whether it goes up or down, it doesn't matter. So the domain of all parabolas is all real numbers. Okay, if you can remember that, I think you'll probably get at least 2 questions on the test correct. The domain of all parabolas is all real numbers. That's always true. Find the average rate of change from f of t when t equals 2 and when t equals 6. So basically, guys, that's all we're going to do. We're going to make a little t chart, and we're going to plug in 2 for t and 6 for t. So I'm just going to plug that straight in my calculator. So 0.25 times 2, oops, nope, that's not right. I messed up. 2, oh, you guys, it slipped right out of my hand. Oh my goodness, I messed the whole thing up, you guys. 0.25 times 2 squared minus 0.5 times 2 plus 3.5, and that is 3.5. And then when t is 6, I have 0.25 times 6 squared minus 0.5 times 6 plus 3.5, I get 9.5, right? All right, so then we do our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So 9.5 minus 3.5 is 6. And 6 minus 2 is 4. And that changes to 3/2. So the average rate of change from t equals 2 to t equals 6 is 1.5. 1.5 or 3/2. That is the answer. All right, number 7, the function blah, 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 models the profit from one customer in dollars a shop makes for printing photos, where X is the number of photos printed, and Y is the amount of profit. Hey, girls. Sorry, someone came in my room. Okay. So what are we doing? So X is the number of photos printed and Y is the amount of profit. Determine the vertex. All right, so the vertex, if you hear the word vertex, you need to think of negative b over 2a. And our a is -1 and our b is 16, right? So negative b, the opposite of 16 is -16 over 2 times -1. So -16 divided by -2 is 8. What does this calculation mean? All right, so I'm not finished yet, or am I? So I'm going to plug in 8 into this equation. So I'm going to do the opposite of 8 squared plus 16 times 8 minus 60. So the opposite of 8 squared is negative 64 plus 16 times 8 minus 60 is 4. All right, so this is the vertex. And it wants to know what this means in context of the problem. Well, X is the number of photos printed and Y is the amount of profit, okay? And since this is a upside down parabola, that means that this is not only that's not only the vertex, it's the maximum point, right? So what does it mean when customers print 8 photos, a maximum profit of $4 is made. That's what it means in context of this problem. When customers print 8 photos, a maximum profit of $4 is made. So on both sides of this vertex, the profits are going to be decreasing. Or no, that's not true. So the profit is increasing from 0 to 8. After 0, obviously 1 to 8. The profits are increasing, but it can never go past a profit of $4 maximum. That's the maximum profit per customer, right? Do you understand? Because after they print more than 8 photos, their profits are decreasing. You're making less than $4 per customer. Okay. All right. What does letter B say? Or is there a B? Oops. Dang it. All right. So the x-intercepts is what the y value is when x is 0. No. I said that backwards. The x-intercepts is the x values when y equals 0. So basically, what does that mean? We're going to set this equation equal to 0 before we can answer this question, right? So let's get rid of that negative by, what's it called? Factoring, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm going to factor out that negative, so it'll be a little easier to work with. All right, so now we're looking for 2 numbers. When we multiply them, we get 30. When we add them, we get negative 16. So can we do that in our heads, or we're going to have to use a quadratic formula? So 10 and 3, 15 and 2. Nope, that doesn't cut it, does it? All right, so we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to skip this right here. And we're going to do the opposite of b, plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So the opposite of 16 is negative 16 plus and minus 16 squared minus 4 times negative 1, which is a, times negative 60 all over 2 times a, which is negative 1. All right, so in my calculator only, I'm starting out with just what's under the radical. So 16 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 60 is equal to 16. Oh, it was a whole number, you guys. So we have that it's the square root of 16, which is 4. So we have negative 16 plus 4 divided by negative 2. And then we have negative 16 minus 4 equals negative 2. Well, let's see. Negative 16 plus 4 is equal to negative 12, and negative 12 divided by negative 2 is 6. All right, and then the other one, we would have negative 20 divided by negative 2, which is positive 10. Oh, why did I change that to a 30? Dum-dum. It was a 60. We could have figured that out, couldn't we have? I'm sorry. It's a Friday afternoon. My brain is tired. So anyway, what's the other one? 10. Yep, 10. It would have been 6 and 10. All right, so our x-intercepts are 6 and 10. So 6, 0, and 10, 0. And in the context of this problem, what do these values mean? It means when a customer prints either 6 photos or 10 photos, the profit is 0. That's what it means. When customers print either 6 photos or 10 photos, the profit is 0. So actually, if customers print less than 6 or more than 10, they actually are making negative profit. They're actually losing money. That's what that means. But anyway, so we answered letter B. All right, you guys hanging in there? All right, we'll do number 7 and then I'll take a little break and then I'll make another video. All right, number 7, the graph shows the value of Edna's profits in dollars after T months. What is the closest average rate of change for Edna's profits from the 18th month to the 21st month? So we're looking at the 18th month. So the 18th month, Edna made 0 profits. And when X equals 21, Edna made, what is this number, right? I think it touches about right there. Well, we're going to just estimate it to be about 41.25. It's probably a little bit shy of that. Or actually, it's going to be a little bit more than that, but we're going to get close. We're going to get as close as we can, right? All right, so this is where we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now think about it for a second. Between these two values, is our rate increasing or decreasing? It's going up, isn't it? So that means we should end up with a positive slope. So 41.25 minus 0 is 41.25. And 21 minus 18, that would be 3. So then if we divide 41.25 by 3, we get $13.75. So what is the closest average rate of change for Edna's profits from the 18th to the 21st month? On average, she made $13.75 average. That was her average rate per month from those two, or that time span from 18th to the 21st month. All right. Hope you guys are hanging in there. All right, I'm gonna make another little video in just a minute. So hopefully you guys are doing well. If you have any questions, you guys have to let me know. You have to send me a message, okay?